We have a complex relationship with anonymity, with both the ability to portray ourselves as who we would like to be behind our phone screens, as well as the fact that with every click that we take, we contribute to our digital footprint. On this week's episode of the Infusion BreakDown Show, the Breakdown crew sat down amongst ourselves to discuss this topic and this modern day take of the Hobbes versus Rousseau debate and decide how much exactly does anonymity play a role in our behavior. Let's see what we came up with. Before we get started on today's episode, I'd like to introduce to you our Black-owned business of the week, where we showcase quality Black-owned businesses for you to support every week. This week's business is the Virginia Black Business Directory, which is an online platform founded by Ernisha and Tracy Hall, composed of minority-owned businesses servicing the DMV. Their mission is to bridge the gap in wealth by connecting minority-owned businesses to consumers, creating networking initiatives, providing educational opportunities, and promoting community collaboration. Visit their website to browse the directory, and while you're there, be sure to check out their magazine.
So the question we have for today, does anonymity encourage people to misbehave, or does it reveal how people react all the time if they really could? Comment below, let us know. I think it's a bit of both when it comes to the actual question. Being anonymous does encourage people to misbehave in a way because there's no punishment to doing it when you're actually anonymous. Like if you're trolling on the internet and you're calling somebody a nigga on PlayStation or Xbox, you know nobody's gonna find out who you are more than likely. So there's no real negative effect to someone really doing that, I feel. And if there's no real punishment to your behavior, then all you're gonna do, and if there's no real punishment to your behavior and all you're getting is a reaction from people, then you're more than likely going to continue to do it. And I say it also reveals how people choose to act all the time if they really could, because the only thing stopping people from being openly racist or openly trolling people in public is the punishment that comes with it. Whether that's getting the ass beat, being ridiculed, or really the most important thing in this society, which is losing money. So what really encourages anonymity is the lack of punishment that usually presents itself with that type of behavior, I feel.
It's funny you bring up the PlayStation stuff. Something you experience often?
Often, I mean, yeah, I guess.
It hasn't died down over the years?
Nah. Yeah, it's died down tremendously. It's nowhere near as bad as what it used to be. Like in the late 2000s on the 360, playing Modern Warfare 2, man, it was terrible. It hasn't been that bad in a while.
Now, what changed?
It died down?
Are you asking me? Do I think it died down?
No, I was thinking about that. It doesn't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think also Xbox Live, a little bit after Modern Warfare 2 or during Modern Warfare 2, they had it to where you could join Xbox Live parties when you played the game, because before you used to have to be in game chat. So I think it changed a little bit just because of absence, in my perspective. But even the few times that I have played and been in like game chat, it was nothing like it used to be. Like every single game back in like the late 2000s, it was something crazy being said. Like something ridiculous, crazy. And I think at the time I was only like 13 or 14, so of course it didn't hurt my feelings, but you kind of saw like I would say even like when I was around the time like 17, 18, like it would be so funny hearing the little kids try and, curse at you and say something racist just to get in trouble in the background. But, shit happens.
Yeah, I don't think it died down. I just think, you said it, people just in a different party chat, people just finding different ways to communicate now. So I don't really think it really died down. It's just your perspective. It may seem that way, but not really died down, really. They still being racist. They're just in a party now doing it.
So they're just in a party now doing it?
Yeah, it's like a little party chat. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah, okay. I'm familiar with the concept. I'm not a PlayStation owner, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Just on the topic of that, I asked, why do you think it died down? But in your case, you don't think it did. But wasn't it because didn't Sony kind of instate things where they would punish or ban people's account for doing stuff like that?
On what? It's specifically PlayStation, Xbox, both?
Sony, PlayStation.
Oh, I'm not sure. I didn't hear about that.
I was just curious because I thought I vaguely had heard something like that, and I just did a quick search, and without digging too much in depth, I do see some mentions of it, but I mean, you guys would know better since you're first-hand PlayStation players.
No, he's Xbox. I'm PlayStation.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Team Xbox as well. It's funny I grew up on PlayStation though. But as far as the question goes, I do think that the answer drastically differs on the basis of how you look at it. So in the case that the anonymity is just using for entertainment, I feel like it does encourage people to misbehave because you'll say certain things that you wouldn't normally, and it's typically to just like I said for entertainment, like a joking fashion. You say something to one of your friends on like YOLO or Ask Me or one of those other anonymous apps, and then on the other side of that, you have the anonymity to where the intent is malicious. So things will fall into the category of cyberbullying or harassing people, and then posting their public information and things like that. And in that case, I would say it's revelatory of their personal character because that's somebody who that's a well thought out, methodical thing to do. And so you had to commit to doing it. It's a plan. It's not something like, oh, you saw Josh posted, ask me a random question. Somebody asked you something embarrassing or said something stupid about something your personal life, so you repost and other people could see it. So it's largely, like I said, depends on what is actually being done with the anonymity. Would you disagree with that, Josh?
No, I'm with you.
Okay. Have you ever taken advantage of anonymity and for any one reason or another?
Nah, I'm not Kevin Durant. I wouldn't make a what is it, a catfish account? What did they call it?
Catfish is, yeah, definitely when they're faking. What did Kevin Durant do?
He had like a different account and was like saying stuff from that actual account. I forgot what they call it. It's just like a different account where you say stuff to, I guess, push a narrative that you want to be pushed.
Yeah, burner account.
Yeah, burner account. That's what it is.
So what was he? What was he saying?
It was I think it was one that he was like defending himself, like, why would Kevin Durant leave the OKC Thunder? And I guess the burner account was like, oh, because he does. Oh, no, I guess the burner account asked Kevin Durant that, and I guess Kevin had a chance to answer, and he was like, something like that, and he was like, oh, because he doesn't want to. He doesn't like Billy Donovan or something like that, because that was the coach of the OKC Thunder, who really is now. But it was something along those lines. It was about a year. It was like at least 2 years ago.
Did the burner account have like a large following, or was it just something that he just started and started responding to those questions? So it was like something maybe like 10 followers or something. Do you know?
I don't know specifically because I'm not on Twitter anymore. So I haven't been on Twitter in a while. So I can't really give you the in depth.
We don't know where the burner account is because we knew he was tweeting from a burner account because he tried to respond not from his perspective on his actual main account.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how like on Twitter or whatever, you can just like search your name and see who's tweeting what about you.
Mm-hmm.
He thought he was responding to the tweet about him from the burner account, but it came from his main account.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what it was.
So in his case, why do you think he was doing that?
Because for the media, man, you gotta. There's a bit of faking when it comes to the media because if you're too honest with the media, then they misconstrue everything you say and they'll use your words against you. So you kind of have to have these cookie cutter responses. Whereas when you had that burner account, like if you didn't like what Russ was doing or what Kendrick Perkins was doing or what Billy Donovan was doing, you could say everything you wanted to say and then not create disarray within the franchise. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, the owners and the GMs and all that stuff matters when it comes to a franchise, but it's the players who actually put forth the product that people are paying for. And so if you have something like that, causing some, disruption within the franchise, man, it's like they'll chastise you and they'll fine you and things like that. But
so you think it's more to do so with the optics, the fact that if he felt a certain way, it was still getting said and it was still getting public attention because he was responding to it. And he's a high profile individual, but it wasn't directly professed from his mouth. So people weren't saying that, oh, you were talking bad about this person, or that it was, they didn't feel that there was any kind of reason for him to do stuff like that.
Exactly.
Got you.
And the fact that it came from the main account is what, because I mean, this was right before he left, or it might have been after he left OKC. It might have been. It was around that time that he left OKC and went to Golden State. So he had already like cemented his rep because people thought it was a snake move for him to go to, you know, Golden State and do what he did there. But you know, nevertheless, I mean, people make their own decisions. You gotta stop trying to make people's decisions for the life you can't afford to live.
What were your thoughts on anonymity? And does it encourage or?
You know, it was really one of those things to where I wanted to sit back and listen because I think it's a character question per se. Like I think I agree for the most part with exactly what you said, where it kind of depends on the circumstances. And for your case, it was like entertainment. And then I think you can also say for, you know, like hackers, you know, that anonymous profile is key. You know, there's just certain career paths, avenues, hobbies, whatever, to where, you know, that anonymity, you know, creates like some sort of flair. It makes it attractive of some sort to where you want to, you know, keep that low profile and, you know, be successful at what you're doing without, you know, having any attention to your personal image or your personal life. So, you know, for me, I actually enjoy that, what is it, the anonymous hacker group, like the amount of stuff that they disclose, man, but you'll never know who they are. Like that's stuff that they, if you look at the question, that's stuff that they, you know, they genuinely want to do, and they have a means to do it because, you know, within the World Wide Web, there's ways for you to, you know, get information and, you know, disclose that information without anyone knowing who it comes from. So I think in that perspective, you know, I believe that they would behave that way even if there wasn't any anonymity or they could be anonymous, but I think it would deter them from releasing certain information because of retaliation. Like they can release that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein stuff because nobody has any idea of who they are or ways to track them down, so they can release it. But that's not to say that if they were everyday average Joe, that they wouldn't be hacking or doing things that could potentially get them caught. Because I think we just saw, was it who recently got hacked? Was it?
Oh, a bunch of the people on Twitter that was doing the Bitcoin
Yeah,
scam. I think
yeah,
that it
like
was Obama, Bill
yeah,
Gates, a couple of
exactly. So
high
you kind of
profile
have to
guys.
think like that dude wasn't doing it behind an anonymous profile. Like he got snatched up quick. So you kind of got to think like, even if you're behind that anonymous profile, it just heightens your capabilities of what you're able to do and the magnitude in which it affects people. But I don't think it necessarily deters you from doing something. It just deters the magnitude of which it's done. Like personally for me, if you think about gossip, people are going to always gossip, but
Correct.
who is around them when they're gossiping is always going to determine the magnitude of which they gossip and the things in which they say.
It'll
Because
change
if
exactly that
somebody's
stuff.
exactly, and the thing is, if somebody's around, they will gossip, but they won't say it in a way to where it's fully offensive. And what I mean by that is they'll say what they say with malice intended, but they'll word it in a way to where it's not offensive. So if that person comes back to confront them, they have, you know, they're able to backtrack a little bit. Oh no,
A
this
little
is
bit of wiggle
exactly what I
room.
mean. Exactly. So, you know, I to answer the question, I think it's yes and no per se, because, you know, I agree with 100% of what you said, but I also think at the same time that it doesn't deter people from doing that. It just deters them from the magnitude in which they do that. Like case in point is the racism thing when it comes to Xbox Live. Like that same person that's calling you nigger or joking about your lip size or whatever, or your skin color, they say exactly what they want to say on Xbox Live because there's a bit of anonymity behind it. But that doesn't mean that they're not thinking or saying that same thing in person.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when Josh was speaking on specifically the Xbox, or excuse me, PlayStation in his case, Xbox users and yours, the people are doing that for a reaction. So if you take them away from the Xbox or take the control of the headset off of them, they no longer have the audience. So do you really think they're still doing that?
Yeah, because I mean, it's like to just say that racism only exists on social media or Xbox Live. Like racism exists. We have those interactions with those type of people, or those parents that are birthing those people who are on Xbox Live saying those type of things. So, I think it's easy to try and compare the two, because one is on Xbox Live and somebody's fishing for a reaction. But at the same time, like, that's genuine feel. 16, 17 years old, you're saying things for a reaction, but there's still some truth behind what you're saying, and you actually feel that way.
Do you think that's
Like,
always the case? Like, as in individuals who may say those things, but they wouldn't, they don't actually behave like that.
I don't think I've ever seen somebody that says, I mean, I guess you can say that for like your
It's not a good
closet
idea. Don't
racist
get
or
me
something.
wrong.
Yeah, yeah, like you're essentially bringing up like the closet racist idea, to where like people say, the Donald Sterling thing, for example, to where, yeah, he had a lot of like profile. Even Donald Trump had a lot of profile lawsuits against them, saying that they were discriminating against Black people. But it wasn't until the actual recordings came out to where people was like, okay, now we have the undeniable proof that this is how you feel. So even using that example, that still confirms my view of it. Like, it doesn't deter the act in itself; it deters the magnitude in which they can get caught. And for Donald Sterling, for example, if he could prevent, or Donald Trump, if they could prevent, Black people from living in their apartment, and people couldn't conclusively prove that they were discriminating against Black people, or if Donald Sterling and the Clippers organization, if they couldn't, undoubtedly, show proof without a reasonable doubt that he was being racist towards his Black employees, then I mean, it's hard to prove something. But when you actually got the recordings and he's actually saying, this, that, and the third about about putting money in the Black athletes' hands, and allowing them to feed their families, and allowing them to drive the cars, and allowing them to be famous, I mean, that confirms everything we already knew, and we stripped that anonymity away from it, and we now identified you for who you really are.
It's what you were saying about the people having wiggle room and the discomfort with them that comes along with them saying things that they wouldn't have said and then getting caught about it. So I was looking a few weeks ago, there was an incident to where, are either of you guys familiar with Roger Stone?
Yeah, he was he helped Donald Trump in some shape or form win the
Yeah.
presidency or something like that.
And so he was on some radio show, and I guess he thought he was muted or something like that. And the host was a Black guy, and he said he was getting pressed and asked a question, and he had said, I can't believe I'm arguing with this Negro. And he said it like real, like low, but you could hear it in the recording. And the guy confronted me. He said, excuse me, what did you say? And it was dead silent. And I think it was silent for like a minute of total radio silence. Imagine if we stop right here on the audio recording and we're silent for a minute. That goes on for like an hour. Like, it's different when recording time is factored in. Like, it
Yeah.
feels like much longer. But he was confronted with the reality of, oh shit, he had said something that he knew he had no business saying, and now there were going to be actual repercussions for it.
Yeah. But I mean, even in that case, though, is there like really any repercussions? Because is Roger Stone, like, is he really going to lose clientele or whatever it is that he does? Is it really going to affect his image? Because I mean, walking beside Donald Trump, you already have this image, like, and that's really one of the things that I hate about Black people who support Donald Trump. They do it blatantly, and they do it loudly. They want to be the elephant in the room. They want to be the unicorn. They want to be the people to push this image about being Black and supporting Donald Trump, and the Democratic Party is this and the Republican Party is that. Like, that in itself is divisive, because you're trying to push this image that you are above your own race because you are choosing to identify with a group that doesn't necessarily, or we have the perspective that does not support Black people. You're trying to be that token child that, oh well, look, they accept me, so they can accept you too. And it's like, it's not that simple. Like, they accept you because you say everything they would want you to say without them having to tell you.
Well, you
You
also
know,
negate any arguments against them, because it's kind of like saying that, oh, I have a Black friend.
yeah,
I can't be racist because I have a Black friend.
exactly. And so, like, Candace Owens, like, I watched her her thing with Ti, and she had a lot of valid good points. Like if I didn't know anything about Candace Owens, which I didn't at the time, I had a tremendous amount of respect for her from that conversation, or that what she was trying to talk to Ti about when they had it was like a town hall, but it wasn't anybody of political stature like running for office or whatever. It was just them pretty much doing what we're doing, but they were on the stage talking. Yeah. So like I had a lot of respect for her, and then I went and I Googled her, and then I don't know why I didn't put two and two together, but I should have known that the second, I realized that she had really good views, but didn't really say a lot of what Ti and what your liberal and Killer Mike would want to say. I pulled up her Instagram page, and of course, Donald Trump is this, Donald Trump is that, Donald Trump is the savior, da 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 da. And like you put these presidents from a black standpoint, glorifying the president. You put them almost like at a deity. You put them in the category of a deity when we've seen them do so much wrong. Like, you can't sit here and be talking about God bless Donald Trump, God bless this, God bless that, when Jeffrey Epstein's little black book is just leaked, and there's so much there's a black hole right there with about everything that's going on. Like, you can't be talking about Donald Trump in the same form of a god when it's potential that he's been out here, raping and molesting, underage children. Like, you can't do things like that. It just doesn't make logical sense. Like, sometimes at some point, people will have to realize that, regardless of whatever is going on, political lines need to be blurred at some point. Like, you can't sit here and just say, oh, I'm a Republican, I don't like you because you're a Democrat because you view life this way. And that's just a small fraction of your life. Like, it's me being a Democrat or me being a Republican doesn't consume my entire life. It just solidifies my beliefs a little bit in how I think government should be ran. That doesn't necessarily mean that, I value this or value that more than the next person, because, I don't necessarily agree 100% with what Michael Jordan said, but he had some truth when he said, well, Republicans buy Jordans too. Like, yeah, some black people that are disenfranchised will look at that and think like, okay, he dropped the ball when he could have stepped up and been a social leader. But, not everybody needs to be that social leader. Like,
not everyone can.
Exactly.
Now, what you were just saying about the truth with it, where you were saying Republicans buy the Jordans too. What do you mean by that?
So back in like back in the early 90s, there was this governor race in North Carolina. There's a black governor going against an incumbent in North Carolina, a white guy, who was known for his racist standpoint. And he wasn't anonymous about it at all. He was 100% like opposed the Civil Rights Act back in the 60s when they were passing that stuff and things of that nature. He was against desegregation and things like that. So the congressman that was running for, or the gentleman that was running for governor in North Carolina during this time, Michael Jordan's mom supported his campaign, and Michael Jordan's mom asked him to come out and say some good things about the gentleman running for governor. And Michael Jordan, like, he denied it. He felt that his place wasn't to be some social advocate of like a Muhammad Ali or something like that. So he, within the confinement of his teammates, apparently this is what was said in the Last Dance documentary. We said, well, Republicans buy shoes too. Now, he said that in anonymity with his teammates, and that leaked out back in the 90s. So you can imagine, like, as news outlets kind of grab that information, now you can kind of see why Kevin Durant would want to hide behind a burner account when he has an unpopular opinion, or people might deem an unpopular opinion, because even back in the 90s, like, there's a lot of stories about that Bulls team where a lot of information leaked that could have damaged the image of that franchise. So he came out and, like, he didn't backtrack his statement at all when he said, Republicans buy Jordans too, but he nevertheless said, like, I didn't feel like it was my place to come out and speak for that gubernatorial candidate, because I didn't view myself as a social advocate. I view myself as a basketball player. Like, that's what I wanted out of life, not to be a social advocate. And you see, he's kind of taken another stance. I'm sorry. He's definitely kind of taken another stance as well, because as we've seen, over the past 3 or 4 months, he's actually donated, quite a few million to the Black Lives Matter cause. And then, of course, I think the Jordan brand has something set up to where they're going to be donating, I think, over 100 million over the next 10 years or something like that. So he's definitely came back around. But at that time, he felt his true purpose on this earth was to be like a basketball player. And that's one of the things he would have said without, any anonymity. No deterrence at all.
I think a large part of the reason why people feel that they have to use anonymity, in cases like what you were just explaining, is the fact that they understand the court of public opinion and how easy you can be crucified there. Because for people who don't know you, especially those who don't know you, it's easy to get one cross sample. So like what you're saying about Candace Owens. So imagine if somebody had never seen her before and had just saw one of those posts that she was talking about glorifying 45, but then they actually go back and see the interview where you saw and you said, oh, well, she has great ideas. It is possible for people to have good ideas and bad ideas. You can sort through those. People don't always have to be like these binary items, and I think that's what a lot of what we're suffering from these days is people becoming more polarized and trying to simplify each other when a lot of things are more complex issues. But it's kind of really hard when you have two choices when it comes down to the political spectrum. And I think we've taken that ideology, that paradigm, and applied it to regular day life. And it's like, because how many of your friends do you have small issues with that you disagree with? And it doesn't have to be something like really severe, like racism, because that's not really something that you can contend and really be friends. But I'm saying like there's even amongst the three of us, we disagree all the time. But do I think Josh is stupid because he has a different opinion than me? No, I could say, oh, that's a stupid idea, but I wouldn't ascribe that totally to his character. I think that's foolish.
Right.
There are stupid people though. Now, Josh, you had kind of talked on previous episodes about the problem. One of the problems you have with social media is the ego. And so with people using social media accounts and you kind of feed the narrative or you create this persona for yourself, because essentially everything you post is on your own volition. You're doing it intentionally. So what are your thoughts on that and how it applies to anonymity?
People on social media.
Yeah, crafting their persona. Is that a form of anonymity, would you say?
Yeah, in a way, because they're not always revealing everything about themselves. They're only revealing the happy side of what they want people to see. So in a way, that is a part of the anonymity, because you're only seeing one side of them. You're not seeing the whole picture per se. If I'm reading you correctly on what you're talking about, just as far as social media. But yeah, I say that is a part of anonymity here.
I mean, if that's the case, we all do it then.
Yeah.
But your problem arises strictly when the ego is out of control. Like you had a eureka moment. What's going on?
Wait, say that again?
I see you look at a eureka moment. What's going on?
No, you said we all did it. And I was saying some people don't.
We're all do it in the sense of everything that I post on my Instagram feed is something that I picked to post. And so that's already, it's already been filtered to fit some kind of image that I have in my head or something that I liked. There's probably pictures that I don't like that don't get posted. Everything is intentional. But what you're saying with your idea of people having egos and you not liking that part of social media is, and how it applies to anonymity, that's what I was asking chiefly, is the degree of which is done. So like with us just posting a picture that you like it and then other people posting it and then it goes to feeding the ego. A false persona or image that they're painting for one reason or ulterior motive or another.
Okay. Okay, I understand. So, do you guys feel that because Desmond was talking about Donald Sterling and Kevin Durant and the anonymity that they was trying to have, do you guys feel that is not? Do you guys feel that anonymity between, I guess you could say, celebrities are really failing at this point, or are you saying it's not as powerful as it once was? You feel that celebrities won't have that same anonymity in the future? How do you guys feel about that?
Celebrities don't have anonymity. A lot of their lives are just like, you can go online and read about them, places where they've been seen, all that. People are taking pictures. Like, I can leave my house and go to the post office to send a package to somebody, and nobody will take a picture of me. But
I'm referring far as their actual like thoughts, as far as, because Kevin Durant was talking about how he really felt. Donald Sterling was talking about how he really felt. So I'm talking about actual how they actually feel about, I guess you could say, other people or matters at hand.
I'm still thinking it too, but I wouldn't necessarily say that we know everything about athletes or celebrities. I think there's still a bit of anonymity behind it. You know, obviously you won't be able to hide as a celebrity who it is you're dating or who it is you're marrying or what it is you do or what it is you drive or, you know, where you live, but for the most part, like your everyday life, there is a bit of anonymity behind it. Like people can think or see what it is you do, but they can't necessarily place themselves directly there to know firsthand. So there still is a bit of anonymity behind it. Like, of course, you can see in this particular case what they do, but it doesn't necessarily paint the full picture per se. Like, I think the biggest thing we see with anonymity right now, present day celebrity, is Kanye and Kim, because Kanye is now disclosing a lot of information from years ago that we did not know about. Like he I guess, you know, he had another bipolar episode. He mentioned how he either talked Kim out of aborting their first daughter or stated that he wanted to abort North. And it was just like, man, like if you think back to that time, like they were ecstatic about that kid. Like there was nothing but joy. I mean, obviously you knew of the health or if you didn't know, like Kim had some health complications during that time to where it was like feared that she wouldn't be able to have another kid or something along that line.
and isn't that why she ended up getting a surrogate later?
Yeah, but she didn't get the surrogate to like the third or fourth child. Like
Right.
she had a few just straight up. And I mean, but you kind of see, you know, what I was just trying to tie everything together is like there is a bit of anonymity about these celebrities' life because you just see everything for what the cover is. You'll never get the chance to flip the pages unless they come out and speak word of mouth or they have an autobiography come out or things of that down the line. But even at that point, you're not figuring out that stuff till way down the line. Like things, even we bring Jordan back up. Like I just found out late last year and then during the Last Dance documentary that Jordan, I mean, we're not gonna say he got suspended for gambling, but I didn't know he was that bad of a gambler, like to where it could have potentially, like the media could have ate that up and continued to chip away until he cracked. Like I didn't know that was a big issue because for Jordan, you just know him for basketball, you know him for the shoes, and you know him for what he did. You knew him for what he wanted you. Yeah, exactly. You knew him for what he wanted you to know him for. Kind of like exactly if you tie everything back into social media, what you post is what you want people to know you for, whether it's done, you know, intentional or subconsciously. Like you do everything for people to take that data in and to confirm what it is you want them to confirm. Like it's, some people will misconstrue it, and then that's when you get the media or, you know, the haters, if people want to, you know, describe them as, you know, self-proclaimed haters or whatever. But for the most part, everything we do is intentional. It's just a matter of the receptors receiving it the way that you intend it to be received. Because case in point, with Kanye and Kim, as far as that first pregnancy goes, they put on everything like flawless. You knew nothing about any you know, doubts about wanting to have the kid or things that in the third.
Which is the way it should be.
Exactly. But here we are like 7 years later, and he's now disclosing that on a quote unquote presidential campaign. Like they do a good job of keeping some anonymity, whether we, you know, see it that way or not, just because they hate the paparazzi or paparazzi catches them everywhere they go. Like you'll never really know the context of what it is that they're talking about. So it is, you know, some anonymity behind what it is they do.
That's another good point, because just because it's publicized what they're doing, you don't understand. Like you see the solution to the math problem. You see what X equals, but you don't see the large equation that was deduced to get to that point.
Exactly. And I think oftentimes we think of anonymity as something that can't be seen. Like we're ignorant to it happening. But like you just said, even though we see something happening, we don't know everything that occurred. Like you can't look at our titles and our frames, our what is it called, our abbeys, and be able to, dissect everything we're going to say in a 45-minute conversation. Like you actually have to sit here and you have to listen for the most part to be able to understand what it is we're trying to say. So even just off the title, there's a bit of anonymity behind it. Even behind the file image, there's a little bit of anonymity behind it because you don't know what's going to be said other than, what were we talking about last week? What was the title?
We talked about Marcus Aurelius, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X. Leadership.
Exactly. Like if you just see it, you think, okay, this is what I think it is. But then you actually watch the videos, and we might take you to a whole nother level of why we chose those people. Even
talk about stuff that's not even there.
Exactly.
What you were saying about the intent of people, how they post things, that's why I always laugh when I see people post a little meme where it says, you might see what I post, but you don't know my life, or that people act like they know you. It's, of course, there's multiple facets to people, but when you post certain things, you're allowing people insight into seeing who you want to be or what you want to be portrayed as. So that's still something that's, I would say that's more important than who you actually are, is because that's what you prioritize in your mind.
I think that's
potentially,
mental illness, man.
You think it's a mental illness?
Yeah, because people post so much and they go through so much that they disclose a lot of that information on social media, and then they get mad when people have these preconceived notions of who they are. I'm like, well, damn, if you didn't put half of your autobiography on your Twitter feed, then there would be no reason for me to think that.
You gave me the building blocks to make the image.
Yeah, like if I didn't know everything you ate for dinner for the past 7 days because you didn't tweet it, or if I didn't know about every single breakup you went through because you can't hold, everything in, like, then we'd have something to talk about. But people literally disclose not their entire lives, but they disclose a great percentage of the puzzle and then get mad when we start asking for the finishing pieces, or when we start assuming where the finishing pieces are going to go. It's like what? Some of you need to go to therapy. I don't even say that like to be hurtful. I think a lot of people, they should go to therapy because it kind of like makes you have an appreciation for perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have an appreciation for perspectives, you're more likely to keep your mouth shut and listen and then talk, rather than trying to be the loudest person in the room and being loud and wrong, or loud and dumb. Whatever you want to take, whatever is your forte.
All three. It's a possibility too. So when we talk about anonymity, is anonymity always a bad thing?
Nah, I think anonymity is needed for your mental health, man. You don't want everybody knowing everything. I think it can be damaging and be a bad thing, but just on a small, micro scale, like, it's something that needs to happen because, I mean, you don't want everybody knowing your business.
No.
Like, if everybody knew your business, you wouldn't be able to market yourself at all. Everybody would know what you bring to the table. I think that's kind of like why the hiring process is the way it is. Like, there's a bit of anonymity, and you're trying to choose the person that has the least anonymity behind them. They fit more of what you're looking for, rather than like, okay, well, they check off some of the boxes, but I don't know how this person will respond in this situation, or if they fully have the experience to satisfy this criteria.
That makes
like
more
everything
sense.
everything we do, it has a lot of anonymity behind it, and it's needed because it keeps everything competitive, and then it also keeps a lot of things, tight in that little keepsafe where you would want things to be. Because there's a lot of things that I go through in my everyday life that, as much as I have a lot of love and respect for you guys, that I wouldn't disclose until I reach a point to where I want to disclose it. Like, I wouldn't want to be going through something, then pop up on the podcast, and then you guys like bring it up without me even knowing how y'all got that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's not always bad at all. When it comes to this social media, it wasn't anonymity that was the problem, because I mean, I have a whole bunch of anonymity on social media anyway. Like, I don't, of course, like you said, I don't show everything don't show everybody what I want to see, what I want them to see anyway. So it's not really not that. It's really about them just posting every 5 seconds of what they want or what they need, like posting about like needing a man or some shit like that. Like I don't want to go up there and see that every time I come on social media of like you saying, oh that's not the right guy, this is the right guy. It's like it's just annoying. So but yeah, I think I would agree that you kind of do really need that anonymity, but I really do feel that it's really dying in today's society with the technology and with how you can be recorded every second of your life, no matter what you say. So that's really what I was asking with the celebrities. Like, since the technology is it's becoming so prevalent that you can record basically everything and audio tape everything, that how much anonymity is people really going to have? You know what I mean? Like, how much of that is going to have, especially with the, like, I feel like the only anonymity you're really going to have is really just you by yourself with your own thoughts. Like, even if you're with somebody that has the fear of like being recorded or something and leaking,
right?
You are, even if you do talk about how you really feel, you know what I'm saying? So yeah. But then on the flip side though, if you have some fucked up thoughts and if you have a powerful enough platform, do I really want you to be anonymous? Like Donald Sterling, like, yeah, he might have wanted to be, he probably still wanted to be anonymous in that aspect, but no, I want to hear how you actually feel. Like, come on. So
Both of you guys kind of
anonymity in that point.
Both of you guys kind of touched on the fact that there's some kind of benefit to the fact that you have the ability for people to expose their ideas to us on a larger scale, because ideally that's what a society is supposed to do. Like, if there's something that's wrong or something that's not normative, then we'll correct it and help each other in a positive way. So it's just not saying that just because we're being shaped in some external way that it's always bad. Like, if I'm doing something weird, like, you could see this often with people who have very little social interaction. They'll do really weird stuff, like really bad social cues or hygiene, for example, and then they go around other people, and then it's like, wow, you're not smelling so fresh. Maybe you should start wearing deodorant. Okay, well, that's something where that social pressure is shaping them and kind of making it more normative and more acceptable. And so, like, people always think that like external pressure is like, who's to say if you took the three of us and separated us in opposite sides of the globe in remote corners that had no human interaction for 10 years, we'd probably come back doing some really goofy shit because we haven't been around people. It's like the fact that we have been desocialized. So there is a benefit to doing that. And that, like, even with the ideas, so if you have something like, that's why I think it's important to divorce the idea of people and ideas being inseparable. And through that, you're able to say, okay, well, like what I was talking about earlier, this person, Josh, you might have this idea. I don't agree with this. Let's talk about this. Or if you say something, I don't think this, let me show you why, or something like that. There's opportunity for that. But to answer my own point about the anonymity being good, I could think of several scenarios where anonymity is good. First of all, it could apply to the freedom of speech when you're writing articles and saying things about high profile cases or individuals. And there's certain repercussions due to the position of the people, or just so you don't want to distract away from the message. You want people to focus entirely on what you're saying. I can also say that we have anonymity when it comes to voting. There's privacy with the ballot. Nobody knows who you voted for unless you go online and tell people, or you go tell your mom and she gets on the phone. And then there's also anonymity, for example, at my job when we have town halls. Like, it's an option for us if we have a concern to raise the leadership. You can just ask and raise your hand or send an email or something like that during the course of the meeting, or you could do it anonymously if you don't feel comfortable. So it's kind of encouraging people to do things that they feel there may be some kind of external pressure. So I can see benefits in that. And then there's one other scenario I could think of, and this is a huge one. I feel like acts of kindness. Acts of kindness are something that, when they're done in anonymity, that is a true reflection of the person's character, because they're not doing it for any kind of perception of other people, not for the gratification or anything like that. They're truly doing it because it's the right thing to do, or what's best, what they really felt in their heart. So in the instance of someone giving donations to somebody's like GoFundMe for a funeral or something like that. Like, even when there was a wrestler named Shad Gaspard who drowned in California, I believe, a few months ago, and John Cena, that's who was speculated to give a large sum of money to the donation, and people were speculating and saying, "Oh, this was John Cena, but he didn't put his name on it." So, I mean, it was a large amount of money, so I wouldn't believe it wasn't him. It probably was. Like, I feel like it was likely, but ultimately he didn't say, "Oh, this is me." He wasn't going and saying, "Oh, look at me, I'm a good person because I gave this amount of money." And a lot, like it's a lot of things that, like I was reading about some of the activism and social causes and people Jay-Z has helped out. And there's certain people on that list who I did not know about. They were the ones who went out and publicized and said, "Oh, Jay helped me out and gave me money for this." So you knew that was truly in his heart. He didn't do it for glorification. So I do see there's a large benefit to anonymity, and I think that it goes hand in hand with actually doing what's right, and when it comes as it pertains to good deeds and helping other people. You don't always need to vocalize that. If the person chooses to recognize you for it, fine, but you're not doing it for that ultimately.
I got you. Anything else you want to add, Des?
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree, because that definitely would have been key for that judge that took over, someone who was of interest within the Epstein scandal. So definitely would have been key. I think that's something that the government should start looking at, especially when it comes to those high profile cases, is your prosecutors and your judges maintaining anonymity until it gets closer to the actual trial.
You know,
Because I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say, like, I understand, due process and everyone, having their rights respected, but at the same time, like, your rights being respected shouldn't result into unnecessary casualties because the power somebody once had, or the power that people who were tied to that person still maintain. Like, it's crazy.
I actually just saw a video with that judge whose son was killed and her husband was shot, and she was urging them to keep judges and jurors their addresses and things private. And I really
Mm-hmm.
didn't. I mean, I would assume that was just the case.
Well, they're
That
public officials.
I mean, so your home address is publicized.
Mm-hmm. If you're a public official, people have all that information.
Why is that a thing?
Well, you got to think about it. Think about the prosecutor in Kentucky, where people, you had a lot of the football players sitting on his lawn, and he was trying to charge them with felony trespassing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's when you're supposed to be a servant of the community. I think I could be wrong, but people are supposed to have untethered access to you to, for some form of like a safe haven. It
I don't
doesn't
think
sound
that's
good
the intent.
because of today's, society and the negatives that push, like, people could use that knowledge in a form of redemption and, harm your family or whatever. But I mean, I think when you're a public official, like, there is no private associated with that public. Like, people know where your offices are at. Like, I think, for example, when Mark Warner has an office at the bottom of of one of the buildings in Town Center, Virginia Beach. Like, we can find their addresses and their offices without any issue.
I do think when it comes to being a public servant, you should definitely have a channel of communication and access to the people who you're serving.
Yeah.
But I think that it should stop at where you live at and things outside of your job description. Because I mean, you said that maybe it's because of the climate of what we have going on today. But I mean, I don't think that that's okay. That would have been okay 100 years ago. I wouldn't want people to know
Exactly.
my address. I think it's a
But think
bad
about
idea
how
from the
people
start.
but think about how people still try to use ideas that were formulated 100 years ago. Like, think about, the right to bear arms. I'm pretty sure when the founding fathers were thinking of the right to bear arms, they were thinking about your muskets and maybe your hunting weapons, not magazines that can hold,
But that's all they
32
had. Yeah.
clips and assault rifles and things of that nature. So people say, well, I know my rights. Well, you also have to think about when those rights were given, what were the times, and, what was actually allowed and what they actually had access to. So I think there's a bit of, like, people wanting to claim that they study the Constitution and they study, public, public public legislation, but it's never that simple.
No, context is key. But in the case with the Second Amendment, I don't think it was the issue with the firearms being banned at that point in time. I think it was more so the limitations of what was just currently accessible. I don't think they had specified weapons bans back back when the Constitution was drafted, to my knowledge.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to add?
No, I think we're good, man.
Brian? You got a book of the week or album of the week?
Shoot, man, it's still been the same. I haven't really been doing a lot. Like, I know people said they want to keep the album of the week, but I haven't really been. Like I tell you, I've been listening to the same stuff. It's still been, if you want an album of the week, I'll always recommend Larry June, Cruise USA. I know I said that one probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, or it'll probably be more than 2 or 3 weeks since we've been doing the book of the week the past couple of weeks. But like, that's been my go-to. Anytime I hop in the car or I'm walking into the gym, like that's what I'm playing. Like, it just puts me in a different perspective. Like, Larry June's music, it all I can say, it makes me feel grateful. Like, he has a very, very nice flow. It's not always about, the drugs or the women or whatever that, like, he actually will talk about things that will put things in perspective for you. So, I definitely think, if you need something to listen to, give it a listen.
You gonna go with that one, or you need another album of the week?
Yeah. Nah, go with that one. I'll have something for us next week. I'll 100% have something for us next week.
Okay. Because I had an album.
Go ahead. You can give your album too. Give him an album that I ain't listened, that I haven't said,
All right, my album is Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style. Came out in '93. What can I say?
I think I have that.
Yeah.
I have like the CD for it. I know I gave you Illmatic. I think I gave you the 20th.
Yeah.
And 20th anniversary edition. Yeah, because I had quite a few of them, but I definitely got the Doggy Style somewhere in the house.
Yeah, dope ass album. But all right, if you guys like the discussion, don't forget to hit the like button. We're gonna see you guys next week. Peace.
All right, peace.
Guys, thank you for tuning into the discussion. If you guys want to see more content, we also had the Feel the Love series with Brian Carey as he breaks down the methods of plant growth. Joshua versus the movies, where I go against all your favorite movies, and Joshua versus the music, where I go against all your favorite music videos. So don't forget to check out the content, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next discussion.